Welcome to episode 10 of the Hit Your Target podcast. I'm your host, Laura Capindale, and today I'm joined by an incredible guest, Skylet Andrew, former Olympian and the first Black British sports agent. He's best known for representing football legend Sol Campbell. Sky's journey is nothing short of remarkable. From growing up on a building site and living amongst rats to competing on the world stage, his story is one of resilience, determination, and breaking barriers. After his stellar athletic career, Sky transitioned into sports management, quickly earning a reputation for his strategic negotiation skills and unwavering commitment to integrity and protecting his clients. In this conversation, Sky opens up about his first-hand experiences during the notorious 2010 News of the World phone hacking scandal. This was a period that shook the UK media landscape and underscored the importance of ethical conduct in both business and life. Sky also challenges the common notion that success is all about money, sharing why he believes that the worst piece of advice is to focus solely on financial gain. If you're ready for an honest, eye-opening conversation about success, values, and the lessons learned along the way, let's dive in. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to rate the show, leave a comment, and hit follow so you never miss an episode. Let's get started. Hey Sky, so thank you so much for joining me on this podcast today. I've got so much I want to talk to you about because in terms of hitting your targets, you have achieved some inspirational ones that most people never even get a chance to have a go at. You started from fairly humble beginnings. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, it's well documented that I came from very humble beginnings. My parents came over to England in the 60s and we lived in council houses. The first council house we had was just a few rooms and there were 6 of us. I didn't enjoy the benefits of an indoor toilet for a long while, a shower for a long while. You know, we basically washed in the sink. That's how we washed every day. And we had a bucket underneath our beds for, that we would pee in. Especially in the winter. When I was a teenager or going into my late teens, we actually got a council house where it had an indoor toilet and an outdoor toilet, but it didn't have a shower. So we still washed in the sink, but we were able to have an indoor toilet. I've experienced being in a room, literally living with rats, but we just accepted it. One morning I woke up and there were rats running everywhere, running up the curtains. But that was just how it was. I think that in one house we lived in Canning Town, we were the last house to be rehoused. So basically our house was just on a building site. And so, we lived with rats. So I was used to all of that. At 19, I got into the England table tennis team because I played in a youth club and I was sort of scouted at school with being quite a good table tennis player. And then I started playing for England when I was 19. And then when I was 24, I moved out and got a flat. And then from there, I always knew that there was something else out there for me. I wasn't sure what it was. Table tennis gave me the platform to travel the world and to see things. And so that kind of inspired me. I felt that my siblings, because they didn't travel, they didn't get inspired by anything, so they were just used to their surroundings. And suffice to say, my siblings still live in the same surroundings, but I was able to see a future that was different from what I was used to. I always knew there was something out there for me because whilst I was playing professional table tennis, I was always interested in speaking to people and finding out about their lives and finding out about, where they lived, what they did, etc., etc. I got into writing when I was really young. And I used to write scripts when I was on planes and coaches. And then I started sending some scripts to Spitting Image, and Spitting Image wrote back to me. And then I started writing scripts for Spitting Image. I think that I started to develop an interest in television and presenting and comedy and stuff like that when I was in my early 20s. And then whilst I was playing table tennis, I wasn't sure what my targets were, what I would claim as achievement. But, I played for the team. We got World Cup silver, European silver. So I enjoyed playing table tennis, but I always felt that there was something else out there for me. And I think that other people I've spoken to have said the same thing, but they felt there was something else out there, but they didn't quite know what it was.
Wow. I mean, just on that, because you very modestly said you travel the world with table tennis and was a professional table tennis player, but I mean, you represented Great Britain at the Olympics and when was it 3 Commonwealth gold medals? Yes, I mean that takes some doing.
Yeah. And because I didn't come from a background of where anybody coached me, I sort of was self-taught. I had some coaching when I was at school when I was 13, but then when I started to develop, I had a little bit coaching from different coaches, but to make that step into the England senior team, I had to. I copied some players. I watched them play. I was sort of self-taught, so I wasn't a conventional table tennis player. I was a bit different. I was a bit awkward, to be honest. I played a different type of style. Commonwealth gold medals, World Cup medal, European silver medals. These all come from me being self-taught. In the build-up to the Olympic Games, the 1988 Olympic Games was the first time that table tennis was in the Games. And so a lot of people wasn't sure how to take it, but I was obviously excited by it because I had friends like Linford Christie and Colin Jackson and Dalton Grant, all Olympians and going to the Olympics. So I was desperate to go. And me and Desmond Douglas, we weren't even in the doubles. There was 3 players qualified for the singles. But Desmond Douglas, because he was such a good player, he could go with a doubles partner. But in table tennis, normally the best combination is a left and a right-hander because of the angles. But I was left, he was left-handed. And so I called him up and said to him, look, we got to go to the Commonwealth Games qualification. And the coach at the time hadn't put us in. So then Des said, yeah, I'll go and I'll play with Sky. And then we qualified. We beat some of the best players in the world to qualify. And then I went to the 88 Olympics. And so, yeah, that was a great achievement, especially the fact that I wasn't even entered into the qualification.
Wow. I mean, on that, Sky, there must have been some things that you did or some behaviours that you needed to adopt to be able to believe that you could do that, coming from where you had, knowing that you were self-taught.
Yeah, I think that when I was 19, I wasn't that professional. And then one day I wasn't selected for a tournament. I think it was in Russia, the European Championships. And I thought that was ridiculous that they hadn't selected me. They selected a player ranked below me. So from that point, I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to work hard every day. And then I got into a routine of enjoying working hard. People work hard for different reasons. Some people just work hard because they've just got goals that they want to achieve, and then they'll work hard to achieve those goals. I was like that, but I also learned how to enjoy putting in a shift. And so I trained hard every day, 4 or 5 hours every day. And I would sweat and I would train until I couldn't work anymore. That just become part of my fibre, that every day I would train, and then I would train hard. A lot of people don't realise you've got to train hard for table tennis, but for any sport, you've got to put in the hours.
Yeah.
Subsequently, before the Olympics, I went to China, which is one of the hardest places to train. I went there with a friend and I trained hard. And I competed in the Olympics, and me and Des finished equal 9th. And that was a great achievement for us.
Amazing. And sort of after that then, because you touched on this about wanting to, get into TV and movies or around that industry, what changed for you when you said, oh, there's something more, you knew you wanted something more?
No, I knew there was something out there for me to do. Sometimes we don't know where it comes from because our subconscious is 30,000 times stronger than our conscious. So what we want to do consciously and what is in us subconsciously is 2 different things, but the subconscious is much stronger. So obviously there was a subconscious element of me that wanted to do something other than table tennis, because I saw table tennis as a great stepping block to understanding the world and understanding myself. And I learned a lot from table tennis. I learned a lot about, believe it or not, how people treated people, politics, the political side of everything. And in some sports that are minority sports, there is a lot of politics because a lot of people involved, they don't necessarily get money out of it, but they get power. And so they like to have the power of selection, rankings, whatever it is. So I understood that. So from an early age, I knew that you had to make yourself indispensable, because if you don't, people will mess with you. So as I said before, when I wasn't selected for, I think it was the 1982 European Championships, that really shook me. And because a lot of people that can compete in sport, especially in minority sports, it can become your life. And you're training, competing, and so it means everything to you. So if someone messes with that, then it can affect you negatively. The one thing I learned from the experiences I had as a table tennis player was to make yourself indispensable. And you can only do that by working to a level where you're working harder than the next person. And so it's not good enough to just work as good as the next person. You've got to work harder. I remember Daley Thompson once said that he trained on Christmas Day just to have an edge on his opponents. And that's a good mentality to be better, to always strive to be better and to be indispensable, so that people have no choice but to select you or for you to compete at the levels you want to compete at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is so true. And, I talk about this a lot in terms of getting focus, because it's about being really clear on what it is you want. And then, as you say, just working as hard as possible to get there. So that kind of led you on to then probably what you're most famous for is being Sol Campbell's agent and then various other celebrities. How did that come about?
Well, I think generally for people in your working life, if you believe that there's something out there for you, when a door slightly opens, you open the door, you push the door open. But if you're not looking for nothing and you're satisfied, content with what you're doing, you won't even see openings. Very simply put, Sol Campbell, me and him met in Lillishall National Sports Centre, where I was in the England table tennis team and he used to train there as one of the School of Excellence youngsters. And we met and we spoke and we realised our families lived around the corner from each other. And then one day I was in Stratford going to see my mum and I see him on this bike, this handlebars. He was too big for the bike, but he was pumping away. And I said, so we got speaking. And then we became friends. And then he asked me to be his agent. And then I became his agent. And so it was just, okay, well, this is an opportunity. I'll do it. But the prefix to that was that I had been doing my own promotions as a table tennis player. So I was promoting myself. I was understanding the press. I was negotiating my own deals. I was doing all of that already. So when it come to looking after Sol, it was quite a natural transition to me. Even though, the first time I walked into White Hart Lane to have a meeting with Ozzy Ardiles and Alan Sugar was there in his room, and he gave me a funny look. And then I walked along and met Ozzy and spoke to him about Sol and everything. And that was the beginning of me becoming an agent, looking after Sol.
Wow. I mean, I can't, that industry, you've obviously had some massive successes in there, and you've also seen the negative side of the press, and certainly from the big sort of phone hacking scandal, because I know you were quite involved in that at the time. So how has that been? How have you managed to kind of, I suppose, rise above some of that and keep your focus when things do get difficult?
Well, the phone hacking scandal came sort of 10 years after I started as an agent. So the police called me and said that they'd arrested 2 people for hacking my phone and that they couldn't say who the other people were, but that they were going to take them to court. And so at that time, I kind of knew that there was something going on. I knew that the press were getting information somehow, but it was still a shock to find out that they had actually hacked my phone and that the police had evidence. So that was another side to life for me, because then because my phone was hacked and I was one of the original 5, and the original 5 was me, Elle Macpherson, Simon Hughes, Max Clifford, and Gordon Taylor. So those were the 5. And there were rumours that Gordon Taylor had settled and got paid an amount of money. And then I think each one of them settled. But again, my upbringing and my way of seeing things was, I want to know the truth. I want to know what's going on. And so I was the last person to settle. And I didn't really want to settle because I wanted to know what went on. Throughout my life, I've tried to do things right. But there's so many people in life doing things wrong and just expecting you to accept it. And I found it difficult to accept it. I've always gone legal if I have to, if things aren't done correctly, because I protect clients fiercely because I understand what it's like to not have representation or anybody around you. So I grew up not having my mum who obviously supported me and looked after me, but apart from that, I had to fight my battles. So when I started becoming an agent, then I wanted to be that person who would fight the battles for the client. And sometimes it's difficult because clients don't see the battles. They don't understand what you've got to do to have their back.
And that leads me nicely on to my next question, because I was going to ask you, was there a kind of guiding principle or some values that you've had that have just kept you motivated through the tough times?
Well, I mean, a story I tell is that when we lived in Plaistow, in the council house in Plaistow, a lot of the neighbours didn't like, a lot of people down the street didn't like the Indian family that lived next door to us, because they didn't like the way they lived in the house and the cooking and everything. People used to moan down the street. My mum used to tell them to shut up and to not cause the family any trouble, because she was just that principled and she was that fair, and that resonates with me. But she protected the Indian family next door to me, and so her strong principles. I mean, my mum would tell anybody the truth. People would go to her to listen to her tell them what's going on and to tell them to their face the truth. And I've taken that, and I've taken a lot of that with me. No matter who I'm in front of, it doesn't matter to me how much money they've got, how much power they've got. I've got a strong principle of protecting my client. There are some people in life, they don't want you to do the right thing. They just want you to do what they say. And so that's why I respect Alan Sugar, because me and him had murders. But afterwards, he understood that I was just protecting my client, and that I didn't go there to sit with him to do a deal for myself, which is what a lot of agents do. So I've got his respect, and that means a lot to me. Other people in the business who just wanted me to do what they wanted me to do, and then they would accept me as a good agent. I wasn't interested in that. But yeah, look, being so strongly principled, it doesn't always get you plaudits. It doesn't always get you where you want to go. But that's how I set out, and that's how I'll always be.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a big thing for me, is that integrity and being honest in your transactions, because I think even though, like you say, sometimes it might not get you where you want to be, for me, it helps me sleep at night. So it's
Sure.
Yeah. So what would you say is, I want to flip this, because normally I ask for the best piece of advice you've ever given, but what would you say is the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
It's all about the money.
Yeah.
Money's like a figment of people's imagination. The fact is that you can give one person £1 and they'll turn that pound into minus £5. You can give another person £1 and they'll turn it into £5. So the moral of that story is that if it's just about the money, then you better make sure that you're doing the right things with it. If someone that has got strong principles and has got strong values and knows the value of stuff, they will always have a better life than someone that doesn't understand the value of stuff. Now, there are some people out there that know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And the people that know the price of everything are often the people that are chasing money. And then they chase money because they think that it will make their life better. But if you're principled and you're structured and you know the value of relationships and life, then what will happen is that you will always have a good life.
I love that.
Gael Monfils, who plays for France, he's a tennis player. They asked him in a press conference recently, is it your dream to win a Grand Slam? He said, no. He said, my dream is to be old and surrounded by my children. So a lot of people think that I've made money. I've made some money, but I haven't made nowhere near as much money as I could have done if I would have behaved in a different way. So, I value relationships and helping people fulfill their potential. I think it's quite sad when people don't fulfill their potential, when they have the possibility to do stuff and they never get anywhere near it. Because when you get older, your history and your relationships become more and more important. When you're young, you've got the whole future ahead of you and you can map out what you'd like to do. But as you get older, the value of relationships is so important, the history you have with people. And okay, down the line, you find out about people. You find out about whether your relationship with certain people was conditional. And you've got to try and have unconditional relationships, because eventually that will be your marker, the relationships you have with your family and friends. But again, you've got to focus on the good people around you. Sometimes it's not blood family. Sometimes it's friends you met along the way. And with me, when I represent people, my focus is for them to fulfill their potential. And I don't apply Stockholm Syndrome, which a lot of agents do. They make people feel like they can't get on in life without them. Whereas me, I will help who I want to help. I will help them fulfill the potential. And then if they decide that now that I've got them somewhere, but they're then going to now look for something else, that's fine by me. I've done my job. I've got them to a certain level. And that's it, really.
Yeah, and I think, that is it is a nice quality. And I think, as you said, it's not about getting all the riches and getting all the fame and the glory, because at the end of the day, what you're left with, and there's so many, business gurus and coaches and people out there who are like, oh, well, you want to be earning X amount and it's all about the drive and working really hard. Yeah, and I think just hearing that from you to think you have had all that success, but it's also about valuing the other things in life as well. Sky, tell me, what's your next target then? What are you kind of building on next? Is there something that you think, oh, this is my next challenge?
I've done different things for different reasons. I mean, I created the Inspiration Awards Forum in 2008 because of the fact that I was speaking to some good female friends of mine. And we were just talking about the fact that women are portrayed badly in the press. When I say women are portrayed badly in the press, people feel that, or people see that because certain women are being put on the front of magazines, but that's promoting women. And it's not. Putting a woman on the front of a magazine that has got high profile, but has got a really crazy life and all sorts of stuff going on, isn't the right person maybe to put on a magazine. And so for some young girls, they're being brainwashed as to what achievement, success, and status stands for. A lot of young girls are looking at reality TV and all that kind of stuff. And no disrespect to some of the women that are on the front of magazines. And I'm not going to name them because it's not fair. But, young girls need to look at a pathway for them that is success. And at the end of the day, you've got to study hard. You've got to overcome negative circumstances in your life. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep jumping barriers. You've got to keep pushing doors. And so highlighting women that have overcome obstacles in their life is a good viewpoint for young girls, because to become successful, you need to overcome adversity. Any woman that's ever done anything in life has had to overcome adversity. So the stories of women that have overcome adversity and gone on to be successful are the most important role models to young girls. They're not seeing doctors. scientists, politicians on the front of these magazines, of these popular magazines. So the viewpoint has to be balanced. So I started the Inspiration Awards in 2008. Dame Helena and Dame Kelly Holmes came to collect the awards, so that was good. And so we're in 2025 and it's still going. So since 2008, through my initiative, we've acknowledged hundreds and hundreds of women who were unknown to the public, and some that are known here in New York, in LA. So that's cost me a small fortune. I think that, I'm a creative. I like to create stuff. So I've had so many ideas over the years to create business. Now I've created an animation figure called Shan Shan, who's hopefully going to be an animation pop star, multicultural, giving underlying messages of diversity, inclusion. I've created another brand called Planet Ping, which is a ping pong brand. And a part of that, we're going to do something called Ping Pong for Poverty and put tables into deprived areas. It's a never-ending evolution for me. Although, first and foremost, my main business is always going to be talent representation and brand ignition for people. I'd just like to work with people that need my help. Some people don't need my help, so that's fine. But people that come to me and say, Sky, can you help me? Then I'll do my best.
Yeah. And that really comes through. And from the conversations that we've had, I'm extremely grateful for the advice you've given me. And, you really are that genuine in what you're saying. I definitely believe that. And it's nice to be able to, I guess, be in a position to give back. So just as we wrap this up then, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone listening today that maybe feels stuck in where they are or unsure about how to take the next steps forward in their career or life? What's one piece of advice you would give?
Do you know what? There are plenty of people rowing in a small boat in the Atlantic. They're rowing but they're not sure where they're going. Often we need someone else to see something in us. We often can't see the wood from the trees, in us, in ourselves. So the people you have around you, often the people who will be able to say, you've got this ability. Do you realize, you can do this or you can do that? That's one. Often we need to have people around us who can see something in us. But then you see, by process of elimination, that isn't a bad way either. So people shouldn't be scared to try something to see if it works, because sometimes you don't know whether you should be doing something until you try it. And then when you try it, then you think, okay, this is for me or this isn't for me. But, Dyson created 1,000 prototypes of his vacuum before he got the one that was eventually made. And so we should give up. And for people that are not sure in which direction they're going, if they haven't got someone around them that can see something in them, then they should just keep trying different things. I feel it's unfortunate for people that have got into a job, but they've got a feeling that they should be doing something else. And sometimes it's difficult to come out of a job because needs must.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's great advice, to just sometimes feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think from my personal reflection, what you've made me think there is it's also about knowing or having the courage to ask for help. So even for like me coming to you and saying, would you be on my podcast? You're a very busy man, and to be able to, you take the time out to do it, then great, because if you don't ask, you don't get. And that's one thing that you have inspired me to do.
Yeah, the fascinating thing with life is that everybody's got potential. And also equally fascinating is that most people don't get to do what they should be doing or what their talent would enable them to do. So that's why I say that by process of elimination, if you can eliminate what you know you definitely don't want to do, then you're on a journey to finding out what you should be doing. It's absolutely fascinating to think that there are people out there that could be great business people, but they haven't had the opportunity. There could be TV presenters or politicians or whatever, but they just haven't had the opportunity. So I think one of the most important things in life is to fulfill your potential. I think that, if someone is meant to just be a dad or stay-at-home dad and be the best stay-at-home dad ever, then do it. If a female is meant to, to be a chef and she's at home and she's having dinner parties and everyone's going, you should be a chef. It's a shame if she doesn't have the opportunity to develop that skill and become a chef.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many takeaways in there, and I think you summed it up nicely to say it's about recognizing some of those opportunities, because there are opportunities that come to us in every day of life, but sometimes we're so scared or blinkered that we just can't see them. So it's being open to that. So thank you so much. Genuinely, I know you're busy, and I really appreciate this. So thank you so much for being a guest today, Sky. Really
No
appreciate
problem.
it. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate the show or leave a comment. It really helps us reach more people. And don't forget to share it with anyone else who could use a little motivation today. Have a fantastic day and make sure you hit your targets.